Let's get cracking with the show. Flav is in the hot seat, so we're going to start by talking about Tottenham. Flav, you don't need me to remind you, but we do currently sit 1 point and 1 place above the relegation zone following that 3-0 home defeat to Nottingham Forest. So before we get into the item, give us your thoughts on that result and that performance, especially after what we saw from the fans, because I think we've got to shout the fans out here.
Yeah, I mean...
They were unbelievable.
The work that went in making sure that the players felt as supported as possible in the week up to the game and on the scenes you saw in the morning, it was incredible. Like, that stuff doesn't happen at Tottenham. We don't do that. Most London clubs don't behave in that way. It was very kind of like backs against the walls. The players had expressed that there is some sort of wedge between the supporters and the players, and on that day, on that morning, there was none of that existed. It was complete togetherness, and the players needed to know, and they continue to know that we are all together in this, and no one escapes this without suffering in some way. And the players are going to have that issue, and the fans are especially. So we're still together, but then we kicked off, and the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you say there was something going on. We had opportunities to score. We hit post twice, bar once, but as soon as Forest scored, it all sort of fell apart.
How concerned are you about relegation? Do you think Tottenham will be a Premier League club next season?
I've got to say yes, but I'm very worried, yeah.
For you, Ollie?
I do, but I think I just can't fathom it. I can't fathom Spurs going down. I don't think that they're the worst team in that relegation battle, but equally Forest and West Ham are two good teams too. I think whoever goes down of those three, or maybe you include Leeds as well, those are good Premier League teams who've won a lot of games this season who can compete. So I still don't think it will happen, but that might just be like a mental block for me.
One of my worries is that West Ham, Forest and Leeds, they understand this scenario.
Yeah.
They've been there. They're battle-hardened to it. Less so West Ham, but certainly Forest and Leeds, whereas Spurs and these players aren't. And it's a new experience for them. And there is, while on paper, I genuinely believe our squad is superior to all three of those teams that we just mentioned. It's not all about that. There is something missing from these group of players, whether it be the direction from the manager. I think obviously the Tudor got some things wrong, throughout his time at Spurs, but especially against Forest. So yeah, that's the worry, is that can this group of players get together and produce the kind of performance that keep us up? And that's an unknown.
Where are you with Tudor? Because obviously we sit here today still in charge. Obviously best wishes to him as well. Obviously tragic news this week, so very, very hard time for him. Yeah. But in terms of footballing sense, where are you with Tudor? Do you want to see a new manager in the dugout?
If you look at our last 3 games, and if you're being very pragmatic about the situation, the performance against Liverpool was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
The performance against Atletico Madrid was excellent.
Brilliant, yeah.
A really good performance, and we're all buzzing going into the Forest game.
Agreed.
And then we fall apart in that second half. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, although the feeling is that probably he should go because the 4 or 5 games preceding those, that clutch was no good.
Who would you bring in if he does go then?
I genuinely don't have an answer for you, right?
Wow.
Sean Dyche is not going to come in for 7 games and just go, all right, fair enough, you don't want me past that. He's too much self-respect, surely. Like, I know they're like aspersions cast on his brand of football, but he is a top-class Premier League proven coach. He's not going to come and do us a favour for 7 days.
Do you agree with that?
I mean, I guess he doesn't have much to lose from a managerial standpoint, because if Spurs... If let's say Dyche comes in and Spurs go down, that's not on him. But if he keeps them up, then, yeah, it's unlikely that Spurs would keep him on beyond the end of the season. But at least he has something there after a tough spell at Forest and Everton. But, like, it depends what kind of manager you want. Like, what do Spurs need?
Just one that keeps us up. That's it.
Because you look at the kind of managers who you'd think would be good in this situation, and like Tudor and Frank, I know they're different, but they are kind of the mould of, like, well-organised managers who, at least in Tudor's case, is a motivator. I sympathise with you, because I struggle to see what the right fit is. Do you think it's like a club legend route?
Ryan Mason?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look what Carrick has done at Man United, you wouldn't, before Carrick going to United, you wouldn't say that he was necessarily a better manager than Ryan Mason. But it's proven that it's proven that he definitely has something about him in the right circumstances. I think what we need to do, whoever comes in, just needs to make it, weirdly, just needs to make it easier for them. Like, make training fun, put the players in their right positions where they enjoy playing, and create an energy and remind them that they are how good they are.
Yeah.
Whereas with Tudor, it seemed to be quite overcomplicated. Like, you saw the lineup against Forest, which we're going to talk about. Not a lot of it made a great deal of sense.
Well, I think Flav's brought us perfectly on to this, isn't he?
Natural, isn't he? He's a natural.
He's
It's almost like he's been here before. Yeah. So we can see now on the board Igor Tudor's final 11, or most recent 11, as Tottenham manager against Forest. The most recent game.
Still there.
So this is a back four. Obviously, Pedro Porro is almost playing as a right-sided midfielder.
Yeah.
We're going to look at going forward. Flav, you're going to be in the hot seat. Let's pretend you were the manager and you're picking an 11 to stay in the Premier League. We want to know what changes you would make to this 11 to put the best possible team on the field to keep Spurs in the league.
I think as well it's important to point out, because we're both Spurs fans, a lot has been made of formation as well. So I think before we start, it's good to understand, because we've seen back three, we've seen 4-4-2, previously under Thomas Frank, different formations. There's been chat about 4-2-3-1, which suits the players best. So I think it's important first to go, what formation do you think is best suited to this group of players?
Well, it's not this one. I think it's a standard 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
And that would give us an opportunity to play some of the best players, some of our better players in their more natural positions.
I agree.
The issue with this against Forest is you had Van der Ven playing left back, maybe second time for Spurs, got pulled at half time. And you've got Jed Spence, I think for the first time under Tudor, played at right back. Porro's been playing there.
And Porro's playing further up as well.
You've got Pedro Porro now out of position, and you've got a 4-4-2, which we're not used to playing. Against Liverpool, so we brought a young lad, Sousa, from Brazil. He played on the right side of midfield. He's only ever played in his entire career at left back for Santos and Tottenham. But he's played. Well, he did all right. I would change the formation, and yes, I would. Obviously, Vicario would stay in goal.
Yes, let's see. Keeping Vicario in goal.
So you can start moving players about.
Let's start looking at the back line. I'm presuming, and I think most Spurs fans would agree, you're going Romero and Van der Ven.
Yeah.
Danso's actually done all right. It's worth giving him a shout out. But if you're going with the back four, simply you have to play those two.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
without question. And I think you swap Jed Spence out and bring Porro back here.
Yeah.
So no Jed Spence.
Oh, right back. No, I wouldn't play Jed Spence, and I like him. I think he had a good game for England last night. But in just terms of balance, let's give Spurs the best opportunity to have natural balance. And Jed Spence is obviously a right-footed, and when he plays left back, he always has a tendency to try and get inside, and obviously crossing with the left foot, which is his weaker foot, is an issue. What we want to do is get as many balls into the box as possible, and having a doggy on the left-footed, natural left-sided defender, and Porro, one of the few world-class attributes that we have in our squad is Porro's delivery. There's not much.
Most chances created, by the way, of any player for Tottenham this season.
His delivery is insane, and so you can understand to some degree what Tudor was doing and trying to get him forward.
Yeah.
But he's not a right midfielder, he's a right back.
On that, as a Spurs fan, I want to ask you, I mean, the back four, that's a very strong back four. A Doggy or Spence could be, a flip of a coin. Yeah. They're both there. Is it a concern for you with the Doggy, his game time? Because we all know what he can do. He's linked with some of the biggest clubs when he's playing regularly. He was outstanding, particularly in the inverted fullback role under Ange as well. Only 2 Premier League starts, though, since the start of December, Udogie. Spencer's had 21 Premier League starts. Does that come into this a little bit?
In terms of him being potentially
availability?
rusty?
No, his availability.
Well, he's back fit now, so we know that he's in the squad and he could be available. I think if he is fit or even close in 100%,
you have to start him for you.
You have to start him just because of the balance. We've got 7 games left.
Yeah.
Can't really worry about his muscles at this time.
Oh, what do you make of that back line?
I mean, it was spoken about over the last few seasons as one of the best in the league on paper. It is
on paper. That is a great back line,
it's brilliant. And if you can get that team out every week, there's no reason why you can't win games. I guess if you're going full-on relegation battle mindset, the only concern is if you're defending a lead with 20 minutes to go, do you back that back four to be kind of rigid enough? But I guess that's where you have the depth of Danso and Jed Spence, who I really like. I mean, you can't turn your nose up at that back four at all. I think West Ham and Forest would bite your hand off that back four.
Has that been a big concern for you, Flav, this season, looking at that, is how many of them have been missing either through injury or suspensions as well, that actually Spurs haven't been able to field that back four? Or, again, I'll put Spence in that because I think he's classed as one of the regulars, that due to injuries and suspensions, very rarely have they been able to field their strongest back line.
I can't remember the last time we were able to do that.
Yeah.
But we can do it now, and we have to kind of lean into it. But in terms of you mentioned about being able to defend a lead, Van de Ven and Romero, if you remember in the Europa League final, do you remember that?
What was that?
Joe does.
When was that?
Yeah. So they defended, they defended like absolute Spartans, and so they do have it in him. It's just whether or not can Romero ensure that he's on the pitch. Is Van de Ven can he switch on? Because he hasn't had a great season this year either. None of them have really, but you can't really argue with that back line.
No.
All right, let's go into the midfield then. What changes are you making in here? Is there a new addition coming into the 10? Is there any changes in the deep line spots?
Yeah, so I would stick with that. I'll stick with Archie Gray and Pat Sarr. Pat Sarr's performance against Liverpool was excellent. He's best in one of his best in a Spurs shirt. But I do think if there is an option that potentially having the experience of Paulinho or Gallagher in midfield might be worth considering. But in terms of our next game against Sunderland, I probably would go with Archie Gray and Pat Sarr as a two in midfield.
Okay, so no Conor Gallagher? Arrived in January for substantial money? I think it's fair to say?
It's just on recent form, that's all. Yes, huge amounts of money coming in, spent on him rather. We've got many players like him, Sarr and Gray have a similar profile, carrying the ball. I think if there's a world in the future where Pochettino does come to Tottenham, he loved him at Chelsea, he was his captain, and actually often played him in the 10. So that could be an option. But I think just on terms of form and profile, those two in midfield, Archie Gray is going to be a superstar.
Yeah, and he's worth pointing out as well, for the disappointing season, Archie Gray has been brilliant in a range of roles. It's worth shouting out players when they have. He's always available, played in multiple roles. I'm interested to know, as a Spurs fan, there's a lot of players that you've mentioned there. You've even mentioned Paulinho, we've mentioned Gallagher, you mentioned Gray. So you haven't mentioned Bergvall at all, and he is back now. I know that they're managing his game time, but is he not a player that you'd look to bring in based on what he can do
It's
technically?
just how many ball carriers do you put in the side? Like, they're all good. Bergvall, good player. Conor Gallagher, Archie Gray, Pat Sarr, they're all similar profile.
Yeah.
So it's like you could interchange any of them, really.
It's quite young though, isn't it? Archie Gray's very young. Bergvall, if he was to come in, is very young. Would you go for the more experienced names, or would you go for the youngsters in that relegation battle?
It's difficult because the young players are really good, and I think whilst Archie Gray's really young, he's looked like the coolest head on the pitch a lot of the time when I've watched Spurs this season. I think the profile thing is a big issue though. Like, I loved Gallagher for his time at Palace, but I didn't get that signing at all, really, in terms of what Spurs needed. I think you need to have experienced heads, but equally, that back four is super experienced, especially Romero and Van de Ven. And I think if you've got legs in midfield, and especially play with three, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing younger players. But I think Paulinho would be... I can see him being the kind of person who you'd want to lean on, especially if you're looking to be more solid defensively.
Ironically, I think the reason why we did sign Gallagher was for that experience and was for that sort of the leadership. And that's why we went on after Andy Robertson. I think one of the question marks around Spurs, certainly when these players are injured or suspended, is where were the leaders on the pitch? And they hope that Gallagher would be able to bring that. Look, if he started with a Paulinho Gallagher midfield, that's not horrendous either. No.
Could you not play Gallagher in the 10, or have you got somebody else you want to play in the 10?
I have Xavi Simons in the 10.
Were you surprised he didn't start against Forest, given his performance midweek?
I was surprised,
in
he was excellent against Atletico Madrid. His driving runs, his willingness to get on the ball, he never hid. I've seen Spurs players hide this season. I thought that was a bit of a myth for a long time, that players hiding, but you see it when you're under the cosh. Sometimes these players just don't want to get the ball, especially at home. But Simons is very brave. I know he has his limitations. He has these, the issues with the size. I think it's taken him a long time to get up to speed with the Premier League. But I feel like he's getting there.
He does create chances, doesn't he?
He creates chances. He's dangerous, and he's that little bit of a special player that can create something when we really need it.
Score a goal from range as well. I think that relegation was like...
I don't think Simons gets the credit he deserves, actually, in terms of his bravery. I thought that even when he came on against Forest, like, he wants the ball, drives with the ball.
For the ball.
I think people maybe don't see him as a player like that, but I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will agree with him in the 10 currently, given the players we have out as well.
Wide areas?
Wide areas, you'd have Matis Tel as is, so on the left-hand side. Again, another young player with no fear. Every time he gets the ball, he wants to drive forward and try and make something happen and hit the bar against Forest. Whenever he's played, he's really shown a kind of leadership by example and a willingness to try and grab the game by the throat. And I think after a very difficult start of the season with Frank, he's talked about his time and frustrations and didn't understand why he was
Champions League squad and stuff.
All that sort of stuff. Now he's sort of chomping at the bit, and that's what you need.
And actually, I think a lot of Spurs fans would agree with you, actually. A lot of Spurs fans want to see him starting, don't they? Want to play him more because, as I said, he's showing signs. So that leaves... Yeah, so you're going to flip, just to clarify, you're not having the front two as a two, you're going to have them as a one.
Dropping?
No, right.
So who are you dropping out of?
Right, so the argument...
I think the Solanke-Richarlison debate is a good one.
Yeah.
Let's have that now.
Well, I think in a relegation dogfight, there's the one player who understands it better than anyone else in the team is Richarlison, and we've seen what he did for Everton, almost single-handedly at times, kept them in the league. He is... everything you need in those environments. It's the beauty of Richarlison you see under attrition, whereas when you're sort of potentially trying to get in a top 4 spot or even challenge for a league title, he may not be the type of number 9 that you want. But in this circumstance, he's almost perfect.
He is a top scorer as well, 10 goals in all comps.
So who are you going for then?
So who are you going for?
Solanke.
OK, so put Solanke into the 10, and then who do you have on the right-hand side if no Richarlison?
Started for England last night, yep.
Last player
This is the hope, is it? He's back fit.
Yes, I think Mohamed Kudus, we have missed him.
Praying for him.
I agree. I don't want to sound crazy, but it almost feels like Spurs' survival. I feel like the return of a huge player. I know we spoke at Maddison is a little way off. I don't think Kulusevski's going to play. But Kudus, I think there's a massive difference when he doesn't play. It feels like Spurs' chances of survival are going to be enhanced massively by the return of a Kudus who drives at players straight away. Do you feel like that's accurate?
I hope it's accurate. yeah. I think...
I feel that would make a huge difference.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the last 3 months have been horrendous at Spurs, and he hasn't been available in that time. It's coincided with a massive injury issues across the squad. But what Kudus did when he was fit for Tottenham, you saw so much of the reliance of Frank's system was based on getting the ball to Kudus, him holding it up, driving in midfield and allowing other players to commit.
Yeah.
Whereas we just didn't have anyone, we don't have anyone who's press resistant as him.
Yeah.
So, straight back into the side as soon as he's fit, should be for the Sunderland game.
Yeah.
And that will give us a different type of dynamic that we haven't had. Because you've had Odegaard, who's since had an ACL. Yeah. You've had Pedro Porro playing out there, Bergvall playing out there, Gallagher playing out there under Kudu.
Well, I think we figured out who should be the next gaffer.
I know, Flav.
Flav, you keep him up, pal.
I agree. I think that Kudu.
I think
the return of Flav.
Yeah.
Get in the dugout, pal.
Return of a player like Kudus could be massive. So there we go. There is Flav's confirmation of Spurs 11 that he would pick and the formation to avoid relegation. Decent team on paper, that, by the way.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of that at home.